about to be 29 years old in less than 2 months, and I've never experienced romantic love.
I'm 38 and I've never been somebody's girlfriend, not even once.
I'm 36. I'm not married and I don't have kids. And I just feel like there's a lot of women who probably need to hear that it's okay to not have that at this point in your life.
These women are still so young. They have plenty of time to find love, get married, have children, all of it. If you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, whatever stage of life you're in, you still have time to experience love, get married, and have a family. None of that is off the table for you. We all have our own timeline. And this idea that you're going to end up alone if you haven't found someone by a certain age, it's just not true. So in today's video, we're going to talk about why waiting for love is actually worth the wait and look at women who found real love later in life. Starting with Priyanka Chopra, who was 36 years old when she got married and 39 when she became a mother. Priyanka Chopra has always been recognized as one of the most beautiful women. She was even crowned Miss World, so she was globally known for her beauty. Throughout her young adulthood and into her later years, she was a major Bollywood figure and one of the highest paid actresses in the industry. No one can deny that she has always been very beautiful. But if it were true that love only belongs to young and beautiful women, she would have met her soulmate during her prime years, when she was younger and had the most attention on her. Ever since a young woman, she was always surrounded by high-profile, high-caliber men, but she never chose any of them. She only had a couple of confirmed relationships and none of those led to marriage. You would look at a woman like her and think she could have any man she wants, and the truth is, she probably could. But if she had had this mindset that time was running out and she needed to hurry and find someone, she would have just picked whoever was right in front of her, because objectively, there were plenty of good options, high-profile, successful men. But that's not what she did. She waited until she was actually ready and until she found someone who genuinely felt right for her, and that didn't happen until she was 36 when she finally chose Nick Jonas. She said that before marrying him, she was always very career-driven and tied a lot of her self-worth to her success, just like most women today. And because of that, she never felt like she was in the right place in her life to prioritize a relationship. When she was 30 years old, her dad passed away, and she said that losing him pushed her very deeply into her work because she would use work as a coping mechanism to distract herself from the fact that she had lost her dad. So in her early 30s, she said she felt really lost in her life. At the time, she was running away from herself. She didn't want to process her dad's death, and so she threw herself into work and used it as a distraction. She even said that period of her life was really chaotic and she felt like she didn't know what she was doing or where she was going. And the way women are conditioned to believe is that by the time we're 30, we should already have everything figured out, that we're not young anymore, and if we don't have our lives together by 30, then it's over, we're too late. But when you look at someone like Priyanka, who seems to have everything, beauty, money, success, even she was lost at that age. She was running away from herself. She didn't know what was next. She was living in instability too, and it's because that's literally normal. At 30 years old, you're still really young. You still have so much time. You're still figuring things out, still learning, and still making mistakes. So when you look at someone like her, who looks like she has the perfect life, but even she was struggling with internal chaos just like everyone else, she's a reminder that you're not supposed to have everything figured out by 30. You still have so much time to grow into your life. And if Priyanka hadn't gone through that unstable period in her life, she wouldn't have ended up where she is now, because that's exactly what led her to Nick Jonas.
I'm living this life with the right guy, with the right father, and the journey was meant to be. I feel really blessed to be on the other side of it, like I said, but it couldn't have been any other way. So you have to kind of forgive yourself.
So Priyanka was 34 and he was 25 when he first sent her a DM on Instagram saying we should meet. And she responded, "Text my team," because she thought he meant something business related, and so she didn't take it in a romantic way at all. Even though he did mean it in a romantic way and was trying to pursue her, nothing ever came of it. She basically just ignored it, and that was that. So several months went by after Nick sent that DM, and they didn't really stay in contact until they finally met for the first time in person at an event they were both attending, when Nick saw her, walked up to her, got down on one knee and said, "Where have you been all my life?" So this was his second attempt at pursuing her, but still nothing came from it because she didn't reciprocate. And it wasn't that she didn't find him attractive or didn't like his personality. It was because at that point in her life, she just wasn't interested in dating at all. It wouldn't have mattered who came along. She still would have said no. Instead, she felt like she had so much work to do on herself, and she didn't even feel like she had the capacity to view someone in a romantic way. She was still emotionally unavailable, still running from her emotions after losing her dad, and still valuing work as her highest priority. So nothing ever happened between them at that time because she wouldn't allow it. After they met in person, they loosely stayed in contact, but it was mostly Nick maintaining that connection. He continued trying to pursue her, even inviting her to be his date to a White House event, but she kept saying no. Now let's be honest, Nick is a good-looking, successful, respectful man. Any woman would be lucky to be with him, and I'm sure he had no shortage of options. But this is what makes Priyanka such a good example of choosing yourself, because of course she would have been tempted to at least try, go on a few dates, see where things lead. You look at him, he's attractive, he's successful, and he made it clear over and over again that he wanted to pursue her. So of course there was probably moments where she thought, why don't I just give this a a chance. That's natural. But what makes Priyanka a golden lesson is that she had the discipline to stop herself. She never let things progress because she knew she wasn't the woman she wanted to be yet. She knew she didn't have the emotional capacity to be in a healthy relationship, and she knew she was too chaotic at that time. But most women, if a man like Nick came into our lives during a time where we knew we still had a lot to figure out, we would still try to make it work with him, even knowing that we weren't ready to be with someone. Because how many times have we all heard this over and over? Good men are rare, and once you find one, you better lock him down. That is why so many women, when it comes to men, behave so desperately doing whatever it takes to keep a man around because they're scared they won't be able to find someone else. It's why so many women end up settling, choosing whatever option is in front of them as long as he's good enough, rather than taking the time to wait. And if anything, Priyanka probably felt the pressure of needing to have a husband more than anyone. She was 35, single, in the public eye, and from a traditional culture. People are looking at her wondering, what's wrong with her? Why isn't she married? But it didn't matter. She stayed true to herself, and she knew that her goals and who she wanted to become mattered so much more than having a man just to have one. That's why she always chose herself when most other women would have chosen romantic love. So for an entire year, Nick and Priyanka went their separate ways, and they didn't have any contact at all. And during the year that they lost contact, Priyanka said that she was really focused on becoming a better version of herself. She was learning how to process her emotions in a healthy way and how to not measure her worth by her career, and trying to become the woman that she always wanted to be. And after that year, they coincidentally reconnected at another event they both were attending. And she said this is when everything changed. For the first time in a long time, her life actually felt stable. So when she saw Nick again, this time she actually did feel a romantic connection. That night, for the first time, they talked for hours, and from there, they began seriously dating. 2 months later, they got engaged when she was 36, and 5 months after that, they were married.
That night, when I saw her walk in, she was wearing blue jeans, a white top, and like a black leather jacket. And I just was like, I'm going to marry this woman. And I knew it right away. I told her that I loved her after the second or third date. I called my mom the next day and said, I'm going to marry this woman. I'd love for you to meet her soon. It was literally 2.5 months after that we were engaged, and 3 months after that, or 4 months after that we were married.
Yeah.
7 years later. It's crazy.
And this is the whole point. They met when she was 34. Nothing happened for 2 years. They didn't even speak for an entire year. But when the timing was right, when she was ready, everything fell into place. People look at her and say, she got married at 36, had a child at 39. That's so late. But it's really not. Everything happened exactly when it was supposed to. She didn't miss her chance at love by waiting. Waiting is what gave her a fulfilling marriage and a beautiful daughter. Because if she had tried to force things with Nick earlier, when she wasn't ready, the relationship probably wouldn't have worked. And it wouldn't be what it is today, because she didn't have the emotional stability or the capacity to show up as a healthy partner yet. And that is why they could finally work as a couple, because during those years when she was focused on becoming a better woman, she wasn't doing it for Nick, she wasn't doing it for a man, she was doing it for herself because she truly wanted better for her life. A lot of women will change themselves for a man to become what he wants, but when he's your motivation, it will never last. It only works when your motivation is yourself, when you genuinely want to become better for you. And that is why her story is a reminder that what's meant for you will find you. You don't have to rush anything, you just have to keep showing up and prioritizing yourself. For our next example, we're talking about Cameron Diaz. She dated multiple high-profile men, including Justin Timberlake and Alex Rodriguez, had a failed engagement, and still didn't meet her husband until 41, got married at 42, and became a mother at 47. And growing up, she actually imagined the complete opposite. She always said she thought she would be married with kids by 21. She came from a traditional family, and her mom was her biggest role model, so she expected to follow that same path, but her life didn't go that way at all.
Just because not having children at this age, which I'm not the only 36-year-old woman who doesn't have children. Literally, I have 2 girlfriends who have kids, and the rest of them don't. So when I was 20, I thought that I would be married and have kids by the time I was 20, because my parents were married and had kids by the time they were 20. And then I got to be 20, and I realized, there's no fucking way I'm having kids at 20. You know what I mean? I mean, later on down the road, fantastic. When I've done, because I had opportunities that my parents didn't have at that age. So of course I'm going to take advantage of the opportunities.
So at 21, she got her big break in acting, and everything changed. She became obsessed with her career. She loved working, she loved being independent, and she realized that getting married younger was no longer what she wanted at that stage in her life. She still wanted a husband and kids one day, but not at the expense of experiencing her own life first. At 27, she started dating Jared Leto, and they were very serious. They were together for almost 4 years and even got engaged, but ultimately they broke up. So by 30, she was newly single. And I think Cameron's mindset at the time was the same trap that so many women fall into in their late 20s, where whoever you're dating at 27, 28, 29, suddenly that's the person you feel like you need to marry. And it's because there's this delusional fear around turning 30 for women. Like by 30, you're not youthful anymore, and if you're not married by then, it's never going to happen. When that's just not true. At 30 years old, you've barely even lived your adult life. But that's probably what pushed her toward getting married in the first place. because if you look at her life at that time, she was just getting started. Since the start of her career in Hollywood, she has always said she always wanted to fully commit to herself, her career, and her potential, so there was no real reason for her to even be thinking about marriage or a family yet, based on the goals she had for herself. So that's probably why she said yes to getting engaged. It was that irrational fear around turning 30 and being unmarried, and also probably why it didn't last. Because you can only lie to yourself for so long. She couldn't ignore that she wanted more for herself. She wanted to go all in on her potential rather than limit herself to just being someone's wife. And this is why she's such a good example, because she actually chose herself. And a lot of women, we will not do that. When we get to 27, 28, 29, whatever guy we're with, as long as he's good enough, we will start pushing for marriage. But at that age, it's usually not coming from a place of, I know this is the person I want to be with. It's coming from convenience and fear. Fear from the propaganda that if we're not married by 30, we're going to end up alone, and fear of having to start over with someone else. And when you're in your 20s, you have no real sense of time. Being with someone for 2, 3, 4 years feels like so long, and you've invested so much time that the next natural step is marriage, even if deep down you know this person isn't for you. But in reality, 2, 3, 4 years is not a long time at all, and it's definitely not enough time to decide to spend the rest of your life with someone just because you don't want those 3 to 4 years to feel like they were a waste. We are women, and women have intuition. Deep down, you always know what's right for you and what isn't. You can try to ignore it, you can try to push it down, but it will always come back up. So if you're making a decision out of fear of being alone, fear of starting over, let me tell you where this leads. Yes, nobody wants to be 30 and single, but you know what's worse? Being 40 and no longer being able to lie to yourself about the fact that you rushed into something, and now you really do have to start over, except now there's more time invested, more history, maybe marriage, maybe children. This is exactly where rushing gets you, and Cameron could have ended up here too if she didn't prioritize her life first and had accepted the proposal from Jared Leto. After her breakup with Jared Leto, she went on to have another long-term relationship with Justin Timberlake. They dated for 4 years before calling it off, and you can see in Cameron's dating history that she always took relationships seriously. These weren't casual. She was investing years of her life into these men, but every time it wasn't right, she wasn't afraid to walk away. She never stayed just because of history, and she never stayed out of fear that she wouldn't find someone else. So after 2 long-term relationships ending, she decided to reorient her life and fully dedicate herself to her career, and she went all in. She even became the highest paid actress in the world for multiple years in a row. At that point in her life, she said she didn't think she would ever get married, and she had made peace with that. She was okay with it because she felt like she had already lived a full life and accomplished everything she wanted to. She still wanted children, but she said she would only have them if it was with the right person. And so at 41, she met her husband, Benji Madden, through one of her friends. Immediately, they hit it off. They started dating shortly after, were engaged within 6 months, and married a month later. And she said when she met him, she just knew. There was no long, drawn-out relationships like before. She said everything in her life had led her to him, and she was glad she didn't meet him earlier because she knows the version of herself back then wouldn't have been able to sustain this kind of relationship.
It's the thing that I'm most grateful for in my life is our marriage and our family. Like, period.
And he was the one who showed her what real partnership, commitment, and love actually looks like. She said she needed to fully experience life for herself first and achieve what she wanted to achieve before she was ready for marriage and partnership. And after getting married at 42, she took a huge step back from her career to focus on her family, being a wife, and eventually becoming a mother at 47. She lived her life fully first, she became who she wanted to be, and then when everything felt right, she stepped into being a wife and a mother. And that's why she got the kind of relationship and the kind of family she always dreamed of. The next woman to learn from is Salma Hayek, who got married at 42 and had her first child at 41. Salma has always kept her dating life very private, but there are a few confirmed relationships before her husband. So she was in a serious relationship with Edward Norton when she was around 32. They dated for about 4 years and broke up when she was 36. And people were shocked when they ended things because they seemed like such a great match. They were both mature, stable, respectful of each other, but something was missing, and so they ended things. Then at 37, she briefly dated Josh Lucas for about a year, but nothing came from that either. And she said this was when she started to panic because she felt like she would never find the right person for her. She said she had spent so much time dating men she should have never been with in the first place and always seeing the good in the wrong men, trying to force connections and bending herself to make things work until she just couldn't anymore. And haven't we all done this as women? We see the good in men who are not right for us. We don't date who they are, we date who they could be. We tell ourselves he has potential. He has potential to be successful. He has potential to be a great partner. He has potential to become a good father, but he's just not that yet. And so what do women do? We stay and wait. We invest our time, energy, energy and youth into a version of a man that doesn't even exist, hoping he will eventually grow into it. And most of the time, he never will. And now you've wasted years. That's exactly what she was talking about when she says seeing the good in the wrong men. She was trying to force something, bending herself to make it work, waiting for the relationship to become what she knew it could be, but it never became that. And here's the truth. Potential is not real. The only thing that's real is who someone is right now. Everyone has potential. Everyone has the potential to be successful. Everyone has the potential to be a great partner, but that doesn't mean they will be. Being with a man because you believe in his potential is how women end up wasting years of their lives only to leave anyway later on. So remove this word potential from your vocabulary. The only person whose potential you should be investing in is your own, not anyone else's, because you can't control someone else's growth and you can't control whether he ever becomes the person you think he can. And by the way, there's no man looking at a woman thinking she has potential, let me build her into it. Men choose based on what's in front of them, but women, by nature, we nurture, we want to help, we want to build, we want to bring out the best in someone, and that's exactly what can get us stuck, because if a man is not where we need him to be right now, you cannot build him into that, and if you try, you will lose years of your life doing it, all because of this idea that you needed to lock him down before it was too late. So Salma said that instead of continuing to force connections in relationships, she accepted that the kind of love she wanted might not happen for her, and she made peace with that. When she met her husband, she was 39, and she said at that point in her life, she was open, but she wasn't desperate. She wasn't willing to do whatever it took to keep a relationship like she had in the past. When they first met, she had no idea who he was or how wealthy he was.
At the beginning, I was stereotyping him. I said, this is not my kind of guy at all. And I remember when I started saying, oh my God, there's something here. We started talking about science. We love the space. And physics. And he was so smart and charming and funny, and nobody talked to me about those things.
She said he wasn't even someone she would have dated before, and he wasn't her type, but they connected through conversation, through shared interest, and she said he was unlike any man she had dated before. So within a year, they were engaged, had their daughter, and then got married the following year. She says that he's the love she was always waiting for, and she's glad she was a late bloomer in love, because by the time she met him, she finally knew herself and what she actually wanted, unlike when she was younger, chasing men who were appealing but not right for her. Her story is a reminder that sometimes it's you who's standing in your own way. It's you who keeps choosing the wrong types of men for yourself over and over again. So when you keep choosing the wrong kinds of men just because they're your type, of course you won't be able to find the right person. Sometimes your type is just the kind of person who can't give you the kind of love you say you want. So you have to decide, are you going to keep choosing your type, or are you actually going to choose who can give you the kind of relationship you want? I'm not saying date someone you're not attracted to. That's not the point. The point is, if your type keeps giving you the same outcome, then it's not working, and it's not going to get you the relationship you actually want. Salma said it herself. Before, when she was younger, she was willing to do anything to hold on to relationships with men who weren't right for her just because they were appealing to her. And it wasn't until she finally broke that pattern, until she stopped choosing those kinds of men, that she was able to meet her husband.
He was just so charming and so interesting and so much fun. And it just kept going and going. And love doesn't have to be really difficult. It was it still is easy.
And our last example is Chloë Sevigny. She's always had a reputation for being very unique, non-traditional, and kind of controversial, from the movie she's chosen to the way she dresses. She's never followed trends. She's always just done what she liked. Even when her choices were seen as weird or controversial, she never cared. If she liked it, she went with it. She's always been very alternative. So when you look at someone like her, she's probably the last person you'd expect to do something as traditional as getting married. But she did. She got married and became a mother at 45. She's also very private, so not much is known about her relationship, but she met her husband Sinisa Makovich through mutual friends when she was 43. She says their relationship was more of a slow burn, and he's an art gallery director, and she's always been very involved in fashion and art, so naturally they connected. They spent time together, began dating, and within 2 years they were married and had a child. And she's such a good reminder to never change yourself for anyone. If you look at her, she's not everyone's cup of tea. She's sparked a lot of controversy with her artistic choices. Not everyone understood her personality or her demeanor, but none of that ever mattered to her. She never changed herself, and that's exactly how she found someone who loved and accepted her for who she is. Her husband loves those things about her, that she doesn't follow trends, that she's bold, and she's not afraid to make a statement, even when other people would take it as too much or too inappropriate. And she also shows something else.
Actually, you got married twice.
Twice to the same man.
To the same man. Yeah, the first one. This is your picture here. This is City Hall. Congratulations.
Yes, you can. I'm, disguising with a black dress, a very large baby bump. So.
Yeah. And when was your second wedding?
Sunday, a few days ago.
Oh my gosh! Hey, congratulations! Hey! Look at this. Beautiful. Look at that. Look at the gorgeous couple right there. Oh my gosh.
She's always been very alternative and non-traditional. The last person you would expect to do something so traditional like getting married. But she did. And that is because it is natural for women to want partnership, to want marriage, to want a family. That is a natural desire. And there's so much noise and trends online of women telling other women not to get married, that marriage is a trap. And sure, maybe that was their experiences. But their experience, their advice has nothing to do with you. Don't let that kind of online noise distort you from what you actually want in your life. Wanting love, partnership, and a family, that's literally one of the most natural desires there is. It's nothing to be ashamed of. Even the most unorthodox, non-conventional people still get married because it is such a valuable human experience. So don't let someone else's experiences or mistakes taint your view on marriage. They have nothing to do with you. So what did we actually learn from all of these women? That love is worth the wait. And as long as you're prioritizing yourself and what you actually want for your life, everything will fall into place the way it's supposed to. And I know there's women who will say, well, the examples you use, those are celebrities. Of course it worked out for them. These are the kinds of women who will stay stuck and bitter because they don't want to actually work on themselves. It is easier to complain and play the victim. Because listen, it doesn't matter that these women we looked at are celebrities. If anything, it's harder for them. They're in an industry where it's even more difficult to find genuine relationships, and everything they go through is under a microscope. And when you look at these female celebrities, their stories, they go through the same exact things normal women go through. Wrong relationships, wasting time, starting over. But these women never settled. They didn't try to force anything, and they never let fear make their decisions. So if you take anything from this, stop rushing, stop settling, stop making decisions out of fear, and choose yourself first. The right relationship will come when you're actually ready.